Welcome back to Rounding the Bases Extra Innings. Joel Goldberg, Matt Poepsel. Hope you will check out the audio version of this podcast. There is a lot in there that any leaders, I think, would really benefit from, really all of us for that matter, too. All right, you maybe early on, you were destined to be able to speak languages because I'm reading that you studied French, Spanish, and German in grade school and high school. I don't know what they were feeding you in Columbia, Missouri back then. I studied French and I was good at it. And I wish I'd studied more, or at least a different one, because there's nobody speaking French on a baseball field. I failed there. That's a big swing and a miss. It should have been Spanish. And yes, I could try, but it's too late for me. I don't have the brain capacity anymore. How did you develop this love of languages? I'm assuming it's a love, and linguistics.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a love. And I think I got exposure to it. I think my first was in sixth grade when I got to take French class and just really fell in love with the fact that we could learn other languages. And I think that we have these natural tendencies and preferences within us, but we don't always know what they are. So I had the good sense to pick up on that and say, wow, I'm really enjoying this. And then I just started to consume more and more. They'd say, well, you got a free period if you want. I'd be like, no, I'll give up my free period. I'm going to take German. Like, well, you're already taking Spanish. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to absorb as many languages as I could. And so when I got to college, I studied Russian. But then when I joined the service in the Marines, I knew I wanted to be a linguist. They said, that's fine. They sent me to the Defense Language Institute in California. And I'm thinking, well, they're going to give me Russian, of course, because I've already studied it. They're like, nope, Arabic. And I'm like, what? Man, now I got to start over from ground zero. Okay, sure. And but it is definitely something that I enjoy. I don't speak very well. I never sound like a native, but I tend to understand the grammar and the structure of language and vocabulary pretty well.
So how much was that a part of your military career? I mean, we hear so often about whether it's a translator, a linguist, or whatever it is, and there are so many needs for that in all branches of the military. How did that work in for you?
Yeah, that was my what's known as your military occupational specialty. My MOS was a cryptographic linguist, so code breaking and translation like that. What I thought was it took 67 weeks out in Monterey, California to learn Arabic. And then in my case, the Marines, they send you on to go learn about cryptography. And then you end up in your fleet assignment, which for me sent me off to Somalia. But what I didn't appreciate at the time is that if the United States government wants translators, we have so many different cultures and people represented. They can find translators any way they want. But for military people that are actually, doing parachute work, boat work, certainly in the smaller vehicles, these are well-trained service members to be able to do and support the translation of the mission. Yeah.
All right. Second question, as we round the bases, you're not the only one, I guess, in the family too, right? In terms of Marine and linguistics.
Sure.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my bride, she's also a Marine. We met at Defense Language Institute, although we weren't dating there, but she's a Spanish linguist where I was an Arabic linguist. And we got married. And then 3 weeks later, I left for a 6-month deployment. So we kind of really didn't get a chance to settle in as a family together, just her and I as a couple. And when I came back, I instantly had a shared bank account, house, wife, dog, like all this stuff. I'm like, holy cow, like instant family. So it was a big adjustment at first. But, 28 years later, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I would say so. A great family and kids and pets and all that good stuff, and a lot of languages, I guess, that you guys could throw around. Third question, as we round the bases, let's stick to the military theme a little bit, because I love to ask this question for whether it be military or just people that travel, but I always feel like it's a little bit different in terms of military when I ask about a favorite place, because oftentimes none of those places can be favorite. I mean, when I look at some of the places that you traveled to, perhaps under tough circumstances, I'm not sure, but I know you served in Somalia, Haiti, Yugoslavia. These aren't tourist visits.
No.
Actually, the general I was referencing in our audio version of the podcast spoke about, and he wasn't trying to be demeaning, but how, I don't remember the exact words he used, but how hellish of a place Haiti can be, because there's just so little hope. That's not a knock on the people there too, but just the challenges there. And when you start going to these type of places, I'm curious if you have a place, I guess I shouldn't say favorite, but a place that is ingrained in your head, the images or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that I was very fortunate in the sense that it was between sort of the really major conflicts that we had in the Gulf and in Afghanistan, et cetera. So for me, it was a lot of training zones and operating zones, force and readiness type stuff. So what also it afforded me, though, as a very young person, was the chance to see the world. And when you weren't working, then you got to take tours. So I got to take tours through France and through Germany and Switzerland and these things. But my favorite place, to answer your question, Barcelona, Spain. I
Mm.
remember sitting there. The weather was perfect. They have street mimes, and you could just sit out there and just watch people and just catch up with your mates and just hang out. It was just my absolute favorite port destination and visit that I got to take was Barcelona, Spain.
One of the positive benefits among many
Yeah,
of traveling the world with the military, and that sounds a little bit better than say Iraq or Afghanistan or
true.
so you are choosing, again, no knock on the people, but uh, you are choosing Barcelona over say your time in Somalia.
I would say so, yes. No knock on the people, but yes, very formative experiences for different reasons, we'll say.
Well, if people are people, it's a whole separate discussion. And then I'm just the reason why I say no knock on the people is I can't tell you how many times that I've struck up amazing conversations with um, Somalians, maybe driving a cab in Minneapolis, massive population up there, on and on and on. So I always love hearing people's stories, but Barcelona sounds pretty good to me. All right, the walk-off question for you. I was going to go with the Ironman piece, but you already talked a bit about all the working out and all of that. So all right, we know that you have those capabilities of doing some amazing things. I think I want to wrap it up just with sort of the final chapter. No, hopefully not final chapter, next chapter, current chapter, this whole self-reflection that you had, this whole exercise of finding yourself in 2020. And now here we are at 2023. Where do you see this thing going forward?
Give, 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 give. That's for me where I'm at, is just trying to understand what people are up against. How can I help? That's my very favorite question. I ask it every chance I get. And I think that, I've kind of gotten more comfortable over time accepting my gifts. I'm a good writer. I'm an okay speaker. These types of things, to the extent they're helpful, I would love to do them to help people. So to me, it's really about connection. It's about a chance to really give back in that way and to try to light a path wherever I can to try to save people some struggles. I really feel that leadership is life, is love. It's all intertwined when we do it well. And anytime you find that leadership is lacking, it's because fear or something else that's self-imposed has gotten in the way. So in terms of taking whatever it is I see and experience and trying to translate that, or here you go, no pun intended, into helpful paths for people, I find that very rewarding, and I find that something that's in this world of work of ours right now very, very needed.
Great message too, and one that inspires me to hear that too, because that's a bit of what I'm feeling, but sometimes a lot of what I'm feeling. Sometimes you forget, and you forget a bit about that purpose. It is easier when you're doing what you love. I talk about that so often on this podcast that not everybody will find what they love, and that becomes a different challenge of how do you motivate? Where do you find that purpose? Where do you dig down deep? It's easier when you love what you do, but you just hit it on the head, because everything is always about people, and when you have that ability to make people's lives better, it's an incredibly empowering thing. And so I can't thank you again enough, Matt, for doing this, for the audio, for the YouTube. If you have not listened to the audio version of the podcast, I promise you will learn from it. So check it out. Matt, thanks again.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate you.